Can you sell that home to an FHA buyer? 2017, the Mortgage Report contributor. 2018, HBI Lending Tree asked the same question. What are minimum property requirements? 2019, Investopedia, FHA minimum property standards. Later this year, FHA repair requirements, the balance. The Lending Network, FHA minimum property standards. Everywhere you turn, people are asking, what are minimum property standards and how will they affect my transaction? Are you one of those asking that question? Welcome to the Insider's Guide to FHA minimum property standards for consultants, home inspectors, contractors, lenders, contractors, real estate agents, basically everyone. Thank you so much for being on the webinar today. I want to really welcome you. And before we actually get started, I just want to say, do you have a question in your mind about what FHA minimum property standards are? Are you concerned about what safety and soundness requirements every home should have? Would you like to be in the position to be able to report on these conditions and help people, any kind of a person, a home buyer, an investor, a seller, just someone trying to fix up their home, understand what the repair needs are in their property in order to meet mortgageability in the future? Well, if so, welcome to the world of renovation consulting and minimum property standards. We are going to be delving into this information today, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things that I hope will help you have a better understanding and an excitement about this growing opportunity in this market. Before we actually get started, however, I want to ask you a question. Do you feel powerful? Do you feel important? You should. And you should feel proud of yourself because you're here. You showed up. And 80% of success is literally just showing up. A lot of people don't. You don't know how many people registered for this webinar who might not be on here for whatever reason. So we're really excited to have you here today. And in this webinar today, you're going to learn what the FHA minimum property standards are. You're going to learn where FHA MPS are used, and they're not just used for FHA. There's VA minimum property standards, and a growing world of appraisers and underwriters are now looking to determine minimum property standards for conventional loans. We're going to talk about why everyone should have an understanding of what minimum property standards are and want to use them. Where can you use this knowledge once you've developed it, and how quick it will be for you to become an expert in minimum property standards, even if you are not already using them. And what is the profitability? How can you make money? Even if you're new to the world of FHA minimum property standards, there is money out there to be made. There's opportunities, and it's all here for you today. And that's what we're going to talk about. But first, I believe that you do not hear a person's words until you know who that person is. So I'm going to ask if I might share a little bit about my journey in this world of home ownership and residential construction. So first of all, just to get started, I know this doesn't look like a future building consultant. And in fact, my world was not going to be in residential construction, home buying, home building. I originally was going to go on the stage. I was going to be the next great Broadway star. Can you see that? But like anything in life, things take a turn. And how many of you here today, type in the chat box, actually did not start out in your career to be in the residential construction industry? How many of you did not start out to be a contractor or a home inspector or a real estate agent or a lender? How many of you started from some other career and then migrated into that? Just type me or I did or yes in the chat box right now. Well, I actually, 25 years ago, started a company called Value Home Services. And this company was doing just like a typical home inspection company. We had the average slow growth, knocking on doors to real estate agents, trying to get people to use us. And then, as it turned out, we were blessed. We received a government contract. We submitted something known as an RFP, request for proposal, and we actually won. And we were one of 3 firms to submit an actual contract to the city of Philadelphia to provide home inspections for first-time home buyers. And when we did this, our business exploded. We went from a small little company with just 2 inspectors to a multi-inspector firm literally overnight. And when we did this, we found that we were actually moving forward in such a way that we didn't have to even market. For 10 years, faxes came across, and all we had to do was pull them off, rip them off the fax machine. You remember those days, those greasy fax pages. All we had to do was rip them off the fax machine and call them up and tell them, we're your home inspector. This is the date. This is the time. We got paid amounts of money that actually are just now being considered small for most home inspectors. When we did the 203, when we did the home inspections for the individuals, we actually were creating a report for something known as housing quality standards. These housing quality standards were a definition of what minimum property standards were and were not being met. So we were moving great. Everything was good. We had 5 inspectors. The money was rolling in, checks in the mail from the federal government through the city of Philadelphia with CDBG funding. Life was wonderful. And then the grant died. The contract ended. And it ended at the same time as the mortgage meltdown. So not only did I find myself in a position as a business owner with no more government contract, I found myself in one of the toughest real estate markets in recent history. And we were in a position to being a startup business with anything but startup overhead. We were actually a large company, but with nothing coming in. So we had to hurry up and get back on the map, as it were, with real estate agents to be able to get them to work with us. And I knew that, many of you do, the best way to get your message across is in large audiences. So what did I do? I actually partnered with a real estate company, real estate lender, and with that real estate lender, we started to do real estate education training sessions. This is the quickest way to grow any business, because with this, what we did was we created a relationship by going out and teaching continuing education credits to groups of real estate agents all across the Delaware Valley. So instead of just knocking on one door and talking to 1 or maybe 2 agents, we were talking to 15, 20, 30 at a time every single week for an 8 to 10, 12-week period during the biannual height of the gotta get a CE time. And with that, being in front of these agents, being the teacher, I became known as the recognized expert. We taught them things like what it was to know what a 203K loan is and how you could use 203K effectively. We talked about energy efficient mortgages, something that we're going to talk about in a minute. We talked about what to look for in a home inspection, radon testing, the silent killer, termites and other bugs and little crawly things. We had all different types of real estate education training courses that we taught. And when we created this educational opportunity, our business began to grow again. Well, one of the things I found in my business, and as many businesses know, is that in order to succeed, you need to have a USP. So does anyone know what USP stands for? If you do, type it in the chat box right now. And I'm going to check back in a second to see who actually knows what that is. But one of the things that one of what we did with our employees, our inspectors, every single inspector in our company was required to understand and know how to interpret the housing quality standards, otherwise today known as minimum property standards, as established by the federal government, because we did those grants. And so what this did was we realized these housing quality standards are the same as the minimum property standards used for FHA insured mortgages for people to qualify for a 203K loan. I wanted to check back now. So who knows what a USP stands for? It stands for unique selling point. And our unique selling point was that all of our home inspectors, all of our individuals in our company were FHA certified consultants. And how do they get there? We actually had a box, a big bin, and in that bin was all the information about becoming a 203K consultant. And I would give it to an employee and say, here you go, study up, get ready to get put on the roster. Because in order to do inspections, you must be able to meet our USP. I was told by my mentor that if I was able to successfully recreate this product over and over and over again for employees that maybe I should package this and give other inspectors the opportunity to be able to use this valuable resource to have sustainable, profitable revenue coming into their business with 203K. Because remember, this is at the height of the meltdown, and I needed to make money as fast as I could. So 203Ks were high at the time when regular mortgage qualifying was low. So it was the perfect storm. So we were able to ramp our business back up. And so when I was asked to put this together in a package, so to speak, I created the 203K in a box FHA consultant training system. And with this system, I have been able to help people all around the country be able to capitalize on the opportunities that exist in the world of renovation consulting. And because we have so many people now who are trained in the same way, working with the same kind of excitement and energy toward the world of renovation consulting, the next step was, let's have an association. And so now I am honored to be the executive director of the National Association of FHA Consultants. And we are an organization dedicated to competency, consistency, and community in the world of renovation consulting. And I looked at the world of renovation consulting, and I looked out there and I realized, what is the one thing missing from renovation consulting services around the country? And that was a consistent, standardized reporting system, one that's easy to use, inexpensive, and readily accessible. So when you see a need, fill it. And so that's how we created the Genesis Rehab Reporting System. With the Genesis Rehab Reporting System, we are now helping renovate the world of renovation consulting by providing a state-of-the-art, web-based, cutting-edge system that allows everyone to work with the world of 203K, Fannie Mae, and VA rehab loans. I'll talk more about Genesis and how it works in these individual loans a little later on in our conversation today. But I wanted to just give you an idea on just exactly who I am. So this is who I am. This is where I've come from. And actually at this point now, 25 years later, I've been able to successfully sell my local home inspection business so that I can devote my full efforts and energy to getting the word out about the opportunities that exist in FHA, VA, and conventional rehab loans and products that are connected to that, like minimum property standards. And so with that being my role, I have created this series of webinar education training called 203K Secrets Revealed. This session that we're involved in today is the second in the 4 parts of those series. And you can find all of the webinars, those that have been previously recorded, the replays, and the ones that are scheduled to go forward on the link, 203ksecretsrevealed.com, which you see on every slide today. So let's dive in. Now that you understand where I've come from and why over 200 or more people feel I'm the qualified person to talk to you about this, and why lenders actually endorse me. I actually was so excited that I was on LinkedIn this morning. I didn't get to copy the copy for the slide, but I had a loan officer on LinkedIn this morning that said, hey, if you know a home inspector or a contractor who wants to learn how to do this right, go to her webinar. So that was really exciting for me to have that kind of endorsement from the world that we serve. So now, with renovation consulting, with any home buying activity, and forgive me if I keep referring back to renovation consulting because it is my, forte, but anytime you're dealing with a mortgage, that not only does the borrower have to qualify, but the house has to qualify as well. And FHA, VA, or conventional, Fannie Mae, loans have a component which is the appraisal. And that appraisal determines what is going to be necessary for the home to be eligible for that insurability. We're going to talk about that too shortly. So just to make sure everybody is on the same page, let me go over what the FHA mortgages are. The FHA mortgage consists of no actual money. FHA doesn't give mortgages. What they do is they insure the actual lender. So they insure the lending companies out here who are providing the mortgage to the client. And so they're protecting that lender against default. And so there are 4 different types of insurable mortgages that FHA is involved in, and you can see them here. The first one is the 203B loan, which is the standard FHA mortgage that everybody knows about. And when someone says, I'm buying with an FHA loan, that's typically what they're talking about. They're getting a house. The house will be inspected. It must meet minimum property standards, or the appraiser will give a list of repairs that need to be done. This is the centerpiece of HUD's program. And actually, Congress just passed a bill that is now going to make it easier and more affordable for first-time home buyers to get an FHA-insured mortgage, provided they go through housing counseling. And this information that we're going to share today is absolutely ideal to share with housing counselors and the audiences that they're going to now be serving in huge quantities now. In addition to with the FHA-insured mortgage, as you know, the house must meet minimum property standards. And we're going to define what those standards are exactly very shortly. What happens if it doesn't, though? What happens if the house doesn't meet the standards? Well, in that case, how do you still buy the home? That's what comes up later. The other type of loan that is available to home buyers now is the disaster relief mortgage. This disaster relief mortgage allows an individual to get up to 100% financing to replace a home or to buy a new home in what is known as a federally disaster area. So all of the unfortunate recent hurricane victims were eligible potentially for this type of mortgage. And in order for them to get the mortgage, the new home that they're buying or the house that they're going to be renovating or completely overhauling must meet those minimum property standards. The home must have been destroyed or damaged to such an extent that reconstruction or replacement is necessary. And you can actually rebuild the home on the existing property or get a whole new home built or purchased in another area. That's what the advantages of the disaster victim mortgage program is. 203K. Yes, I'm smiling. 203K rehab loans. Of course, I love them. This is what happens. This is the tool that is able to be used when a house isn't eligible for the FHA insured mortgage, for the B loan, or in some cases for the H. If the home is needing repairs, but it's not a complete destruction of the property, a person can actually refinance their existing mortgage or buy a home with the 203K loan and get the complete renovations included in that one mortgage. And this mortgage is based upon the after repaired value of the property, not so much the initial purchase price. The person is allowed to borrow to pay off the seller of the house or pay off a prior mortgage and add repairs, and then the new mortgage that the person will be paying on, the house must be able to appraise for that available number in after repaired condition. And so the appraiser is going to look at the property and determine, are all the things that are going to be done to this property going to make it meet minimum property standards? And so that's the biggest area where we have become experts at minimum property standards. And I'm speaking now to all the FHA consultants on our call today who are already experts at using minimum property standards for the purpose of completing 203K renovation projects. And finally, and most excitingly, energy efficient mortgages. Type in the chat box right now if you know what EEMs are or have had any experience with them. While this has been around for quite some time, believe me, almost 20 years, very few people are actually using this loan component. And the nice thing about energy efficient mortgages, and we're going to be talking more about that at the 203K Discovery Days, we're going to have a huge expanded discussion about energy efficient mortgages and how they're going to capitalize and make more homes not only energy safe, but more efficient to run and more valuable to the homeowner. This is one of the elements that we're going to have experts on discussing at the 203K Discovery Days. So now with the energy efficient mortgage, it's not a separate mortgage. It's actually a loan that's stacked on top of any other FHA insurable loan. So this is something that is now available to you. And guess what? I've got a new secret for you. VA has their own energy efficient mortgage, and they have increased the limits of what you can borrow in a VA loan in their VA rehab mortgage. So everything that we're talking about now with FHA, rehab loans, energy efficient mortgages, purchases, are all now comparable in the VA purchase program for our wonderful, wonderful country's heroes. So now that you know where these situations are being able to use, you can check that box off of the list of things that I promised to give you. One of my deliverables was to tell you where these types of minimum property standards are used, okay, done that. What are they? What are minimum property standards? Well, the minimum property standards is an assessment of the property to determine what is the condition of the home in comparison to a bare minimum standard of habitability. In other words, in medical terms, is the patient breathing? Okay? If he's breathing, he's fine. When we think about the minimum property standards, we're looking at a situation where we're wondering how this loan is going to be able to be funded, and in the event of a default, what's going to happen? So when an appraiser looks at a property and determines what the minimum property standards are, they're looking to see if for some reason this borrower cannot maintain this mortgage, what will happen to this house if someone else has to come in and buy it? Does it meet the bare minimum habitability so that it's going to be safe and sound for the future buyer? So FHA and VA do not want to take back a repossessed home that doesn't meet minimum standards, because then they're going to have to fix it because they insured the mortgage, and so they have to make sure all homes that have that insurance are safe and sound. Now, a question that was raised on the slide before, who determines what those minimum property standards are? Well, many of you might think that it's the appraiser. It isn't. It's the underwriter, the lender. It's my favorite term, the money rule. He who has the money, you know it, makes the rules. So while many people will want to throw an appraiser under the bus and say, oh, the appraiser's making me do this, he's making a recommendation to the underwriter of things that they suggest need to be done, and then it's up to the underwriter to determine if they will agree to that assessment. And there are many situations that we find that the appraiser's report might not be as accurate as it could be. And one of the things that we have developed with our minimum property standard reporting system is an ability to understand what those requirements are, just in case someone else might have made a misunderstanding about the condition. So when we're looking at the FHA minimum property standards, short and sweet, it is to verify that the property comprises a readily marketable real estate entity eligible for mortgage insurance. Is this home eligible to get insurance? And as you can see, a lot of people are using this information for a lot of reasons. And as I said, when we were working with the City of Philadelphia, the grant that we had was being funded by Community Development Block Grant Funding, CDBG, and that entailed that those homes getting that grant must meet those minimum property standards. So now, I like to keep things interactive. Any of you who ever have been to any of our events, and those who are going to be, hopefully all of you will be coming to the upcoming 203K Discovery Days, you will find that I like to keep everybody engaged. So what I want you to do right now, before we go any further, I want you to write down, what do you think are elements of minimum property standards? Just type them in the chat box, some of the things that you think would be FHA minimum property standards. So I'm going to give you a few seconds. I want you to either write it down on a piece of paper or write it down in the chat box. I want you to start writing. Yeah, I do. I see you. I can see you in there. Start writing and begin now. Oops, go back. All right. Start writing now. That's not working. Okay. I was trying to be able to play music for you while you were writing, and it's not working. See if I can hit this again. Start writing now. Okay, the music isn't playing. I'm not going to sing, so I'm just to write down on the chat box some of the things that you think would be FHA minimum property standards. Okay? All right, so you've written them down. All right, now I want you to know that I have a staff person here with me, one of my amazing team members who has been with me for 25 years, who is answering chats and responding to your comments and questions while I'm talking, because my hands are up here. So I'm hoping that she's answering your questions proactively and effectively, and if she doesn't, I'll be answering any kind of a question that she's unable to answer after the webinar is over. So just want to let you know, I am seeing these chats line up, and she is in there commenting and making information for you. So let's keep going. Now that you've listed some of those items, let's check your math. Let's check your homework. So what are some of these FHA minimum property standards appraisal guidelines? So The FHA appraisal has much stricter guidelines. As of 2017, HUD cracked down, and they said that appraisers need to do more. And you actually can go onto the link that's shown on the slide that says what is the government programs that are, how can I find out what the appraisal guidelines are? We actually have incorporated them in our training here in the National Association of FHA Consultants. And these include safety and health and safety and standard inspections. Here is actually a screenshot of information directly from the FHA appraisal information from HUD 4000.1. And as you can see, the inspection portion is not referred to as an observation. They do have to make sure that the roof has been checked to see that the roof that needs to be replaced within 2 years must be reported. They have to check for lead-based paint. And they have to check that it's fully accessible to the attic if it's able to do so. So now, in a lot of circumstances, an appraiser cannot get to some of these things because they don't have the tools or the equipment to do so. And having a report available that addresses the needs before the appraisal gets done is one of the ways people are able to make sure that the appraisal is not a roadblock to successful completion of their mortgage. With VA appraisals, the exact situation exists with VA appraisals as it does with FHA appraisals, only a little slightly higher. With VA appraisals, you have to have a higher threshold of safety and soundness. This is because we are trying to protect our wonderful heroes. And as I mentioned earlier, there are the new rehab loan options available for FHA for VA borrowers. This is something that just recently occurred in 2018, in fact. And so we're very excited to be able to work with the Veterans Administration to be able to help map out what these requirements are for people who are getting these loans, because it's all designed to help protect and secure our wonderful heroes. So let's dive in. You typed in the chat box all the things that you thought were FHA minimum property standard repairs. Now let's see how you did. Well, going area by area through the property, we're going to take the exterior of the home. We're going to take the information about the property. One of the important things to understand about an FHA insured mortgage is that with an FHA insured mortgage, with a VA loan, with any property that must meet minimum property standards, it's important to understand that there are things about the property that must be repaired or corrected and evaluated and reported on that might not be covered, in many cases are not covered by a standard home inspection report. A lot of people don't realize that. They think, okay, I'll get a home inspection report and that'll take care of everything. Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a situation, those of you who are home inspectors out there, or real estate agents, or lenders, where the person had a home inspection report done by a wonderful qualified professional? You had this inspection, you negotiated with the seller based upon what the condition of the home inspection was, only to find that the appraiser called for things that weren't even covered on the inspection report. Or worse yet, based upon the information on the home inspection report, you were asked as a home inspector to change what was written on your report. You were requested, could you please change what you've written about this heater? Can you say that it is not at the end of its life expectancy? And you as a home inspector would say, I can't change my inspection report. This is something that is there not only to help the client and address and provide them information, but it's also there, that report is there to protect my assets. So no, I can't change the report. With the minimum property standard reporting system, you now will have a tool, a resource that lenders and underwriters absolutely love because it doesn't include those marginal conditions. It's pass or fail, just like an appraisal report. Only it's created for your customer for a lot less money and a lot sooner than the actual appraisal is completed. So how does this work? Let's go through and see what we're talking about. So when we're looking at the property, as I said, we talk about the conditions in the home. One of the things that's covered under the minimum property standards that's not a component of an actual home inspection is what is the easement in that property. Here you see two mailboxes in the front, you see this one house here, and you see another house in the back. Well, what you might not know is that unless there is a permanent shared maintenance agreement on file with the municipality for this driveway that allows this person who owns the home in the back unrestricted access to this driveway, that home is ineligible for an insurable mortgage. It needs to be able to have access to pedestrians and vehicular access from the public or private street without having to be considered encroaching. We don't cover that as home inspectors. As building inspectors, we don't pay attention to what the easements are. We don't look at the deeds or the information. All we look at is the condition of the actual structures and components in the home. But as you can see here in this picture, this might be a condition that might cause a concern if you cannot access the property readily in the back without getting permission from the front homeowner. If that front homeowner decided he wanted to put a fence up right here, then you're in trouble because you can't get to your house. So this is just an example of one of the things that would fail to meet FHA minimum property standards or to be called into question that does not get listed as part of a home inspection. What are some of the others? Let's move into the inside of the house. The first and most important thing, especially with FHA and VA, is all utilities. All utilities must be on at the time of the home inspection. And all living units must have a continuing supply of safe and potable water, sanitary facilities, and a safe method of sewage. If there's a well on the property, that well for insurable mortgage must be tested and found to meet certain minimum tests for the quality of the water and the function of the well. Septic systems, obviously they have to be tested and evaluated to determine their safety and soundness, and that's an expensive repair. Electricity for lighting and for equipment use in the home. Any home that has, you may not have a completely solar powered electrical home that is ineligible for an FHA insured mortgage. There must be a backup resource of electricity. You can have the solar or the geothermal as your primary, but you must have a backup municipal electric service because, again, it goes to market acceptance. Not many people are comfortable with having a home that's completely off the grid. So, and FHA and VA don't want to risk insuring that property. There needs to be heating in every area of the home, and we're going to go into what the heating requirements are for minimum property standards. And there are some non-conventional homes that have non-conventional heating sources that may or may not be eligible for an insurable mortgage. And that goes for plumbing as well. We're going to have some fun in a minute. Let's take something ugly. Look at that picture. All right, so now all of you home inspectors and contractors out there, let's look at this picture. Let's say you are a general contractor. Someone wants to sell their home. So they bring you in and say, hey, I'm looking to sell my home. And you've told me on the information I saw on your website that you can help me know if I can sell this house with an FHA mortgage and help get it ready for that FHA insurable mortgage buyer. So look at this electrical panel, these fuses, and this panel here, the 60 amp box, got cloth covering on sheathing on the service entrance cable. It's got fuses with the two poles for the heat, for the probably for the range and the dryer right there in the front, or the two main poles. Does this meet minimum property standards? Is this eligible for an FHA or VA insured mortgage? Type your answer now in the chat box. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to type that answer, but we're going to go on to another, and then we're going to come back to this. So, is this an acceptable heating source? Now, let's say, for example, this is a chalet, a one-room chalet, a studio up in the mountains, and they're buying it with an FHA insured mortgage. Yes, people in the mountains do buy homes with insurable mortgages. They buy little bungalows that have just one room and a kitchen and a bathroom, and maybe they might have a bedroom upstairs. You can see here, this has a little loft, the stairs going up to a loft, but this is the heater for the whole first floor. Is this an acceptable heating source? All right, well, if you can look at the slide, you can see that those are little pellets. And I'm going to make a caveat. This is a pellet stove that has been described in the manufacturer specs that it can maintain a temperature of at least 58 degrees for 10 hours. So now, with that as the caveat, is this eligible for an FHA insured mortgage, a VA insured mortgage? The answer is market acceptance. And the answer is yes. And let's go back to that other slide that we just looked at. You remember the one with the lovely, lovely electric system. That also will pass minimum property standards. It's market acceptable. Now, let's look at this for a minute. If this was the condition of the electric, this was a type of electrical service in a 3,000 square foot suburban home that's being sold for $330,000, no, this would not be considered market acceptable because none of the homes on either side are getting away with a 60 amp service. They've all most likely have 100, 150, or even now today considered minimum for acceptability is 200 amps. But if it's marketable, remember that one-room chalet with a bedroom upstairs that I talked about, or that bungalow out in the deserts of Arizona? 60 amps would be fine for that house if it has propane gas, propane heat, propane hot water, propane dryer, and a propane range. 60 amps would be more than enough. So it's whatever is market acceptable for that environment. Okay? That's what you need to know. The key is market acceptable. Now, another condition that needs to be mindful of is well and septic. So again, I don't get that dirty. I don't do septic inspections. I have a wonderful company who I will subcontract out to, and I recommend if you don't do septic and well inspections, make some friends, because one of the biggest ways for a home to fail to meet minimum property standards is when it can't pass the well and septic inspection. And so here's just some of the minimum distances that are necessary for insurable mortgage guidelines. And there are some additional caveats, running streams, etc., fresh water sources, etc. But for the most part, have these systems tested by a qualified professional and let the individuals that you're working with know that this is a key component of its eligibility for minimum property standards. So let's talk about septic and potable water and those things. Let's have some fun. Ready? So here's that question. All right, get ready to start typing yes, yes, or no, no. Does this meet minimum property standards? Okay, I'm joking here. No, that doesn't meet minimum property standards for a couple of reasons. But would this? So think about this. This is a little bathroom. Maybe the sink might be on the other side of that wall in a kitchen, perhaps. There's a little septic system right there underneath it. It's fully functional. You've got venting. You have electricity. And if you put a little electric heat source in that unit, let's say there was an electric radiator on the floor or on the wall of that unit, yes, this would be considered an acceptable bathroom in that bungalow I talked about, or in that chalet or cabin up in the mountains. So yes, it's depending on what is marketably acceptable. Okay? So, however, I need to let you know that if it is possible for that property to be connected to municipal water and municipal sewage, if it is feasible to do so, it must be connected in order to get an FHA insured mortgage. In other words, if there is a sewer line running down the street, in the middle of the street, but the homeowner just never chose to spend the money to connect to it, because it is expensive to connect to public sewage and water, and you're trying to get a new FHA insured mortgage, it must be connected to that public sewage. It must be if it is feasible. And feasibility is based upon a percentage of what the sale price of that house is in relation to the cost to do the connection. But in most cases, HUD is going to say it's feasible if it's doable, because homes that do not have public water and public sewage are not as marketable as those that do. Short and sweet. If I've got to get stuck with a property, if I'm FHA, if I'm VA, and I'm looking at the fact that I might have to take over this mortgage, I don't want a home that might have a bad compromised septic. I want one that has public water, especially if it's right there in the street for me to tap into, or very near to the home. So, does this meet FHA minimum property standards? What is that? Okay, well, you can see the shotgun sitting over there, leaning up against the counter, and this actually was an actual property. that I was actually asked to go out and perform an evaluation for an FHA insured mortgage. And actually, if anyone is familiar with this condition, here you go. I'll give you a clue. If you have to spray paint on your garage that you're not a meth lab, you're probably a meth lab. And no, this does not meet minimum property standards or minimum functional standards in any capacity, in any case. So this is something to be aware of. Environmental conditions, lead, asbestos, radon, not so much radon. Radon is not considered a condition that will warrant a failure for minimum property standards. More is the pity, because I think it should. And I'm sure the EPA would agree with me. But having a home with this type of toxic environmental concern would be an ineligibility for the insurable mortgage. And in fact, the home was going to require so many repairs, it was not able to meet the after repaired value. And so the home did not move forward with a renovation loan at all. I think they're actually going to have to demolish the property. It's unfortunate. So let's move inside and look at some standard things. So with an FHA or VA or conventional mortgage, you're allowed to have mixed-use properties. And with inside each one of those mixed-use properties of the residential side, all of those residential units, let's say it's 2 apartments and a storefront, all elements in that property must be meeting minimum property standards. There's certain space requirements. We talked about drainage and sewage and lead paint. Lead paint is and still a concern. So now let me just pause right here, especially to talk to you contractors who are in the audience. When I'm talking to you contractors in the audience, I want you to understand that if you are doing work in homes that were built before 1978, the property, you as the contractor, if you're disturbing more than 6 square feet of interior or 3 square feet of interior or 6 square feet of exterior, you must have your EPA lead safe practices certification. You see, EPA established these guidelines over 10 years ago. And any contractor doing work in a home built before 1978 where you're disturbing any paint at all, and by disturbing paint, I mean if you're cutting into the wall in any capacity, to run electric, to add ductwork, to cut out to put cabinetry, to rip out the backsplash, to put mirrored tiles in a bathroom. Anything that's disturbing it, if you do not have that EPA lead safe practices certification, you are eligible or in risk of a fine of up to $37,500 per day. If you want more information, go to, just type into your search bar, lead certification, the 2 letters of your state.com. So lead certification PA.com for Pennsylvania, lead certification CA, or just type in EPA lead safe practices or lead safe remodeler. Get it, because you don't want to be at risk. And I'm also speaking to you real estate professionals who are working with these contractors in areas that have homes of this age. Make sure that you are getting that information from them. Make sure they have that certification. Okay? So that's a little bit of a Bible thumping here for the minute. So let's get back to our game. Okay, so moving on. What I've tried to help you understand, hopefully, is that not all homes are eligible for an FHA insured mortgage. Not every property can get this type of loan. As you can see here in this slide, the power cables are within the drop zone of the property. And this is no longer a grandfatherable condition. It used to be that if the home had an FHA mortgage insurance in the past, it would be eligible in the future and it could be grandfathered in. Not with this condition. This situation makes it ineligible for an FHA insurable mortgage. And as you can see, there are homes out there like this. But again, as a home inspector or as a contractor, helping a person prepare to sell a home or buy a house, if we go out to help a person look at the property, we don't think of this as part of our responsibility because this is not something that the seller is concerned about. It's not his responsibility to deal with the fact that the tension lines are above the property or that the home was built under them. Here's an example of a property here that both of these homes are potentially ineligible for an FHA insurable mortgage, and the only way to know is to check with the underwriter. Now, the home on the left is obviously not going to make it. You're not going to get away with this one. The home on the right, however, you have to check and see, and have an engineer come out and do a survey to see if those lines were to detach from the main pole, would they possibly fall on the home, the drop zone, not the actual line underneath the home, but in the drop zone of that property, okay? Mixed-use properties. With mixed-use properties, in order to be able to get an FHA insurable mortgage, the amount of space that's available for the residential property must be at least 51% of the gross dwelling, okay? And so that's important to understand, that while you're purchasing a whole property for the insurable mortgage for FHA, and I'm not sure if VA allows mixed-use purchase property, I'll have to delve into that a little bit more to answer that question. I saw it pop up on the chat. We'll look into that. But when you look at the mixed-use properties, it's a big situation as far as making sure that the home meets minimum property standards as it relates to every single room of that mixed-use property, every kitchen, every bathroom, every living area, the entire exterior, what's going on in this home. Okay, so ready for some more testing? All right, let's put your pencils up again. I'm going to ask you some questions. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a clue because I want to make it easy on you, okay? And this should help you get the right answer. The answer to all of these questions is the same answer, all right? So let's go one by one. Does FHA require a bedroom in a home? Okay, think about that. Ready? Does FHA require a closet in a bedroom? Think about that. Is a home with a propane-fired furnace in the crawl space eligible for an FHA insured mortgage? And when I say FHA, I'm also saying VA, okay? So just to let you know, these are all for VA as well. And do insurable mortgage underwriters require a maximum of 2 layers of roofing? So you've got 4 questions there, all right? Write your answer in the chat box right now. What is your answer? Okay, you ready? Drum roll, please. That's my sound effect for drum roll. No, the answer is no. FHA, as I said earlier, I tried to give you some clues to this when I talked about that chalet, that bungalow. FHA does not require a bedroom. VA does not require that you have a bedroom. You can have one large room with a living area portioned off in a corner. As long as you have a living area, a kitchen area, and a bathroom, it's eligible for an FHA insured VA insurable mortgage. And no, there's no requirement that you have a closet. So these are some misnomers that people have had. I was hoping that the last one, since most of you know FHA does not make any kind of prerequisite on the number of layers of roof, it's just that the topmost layer must be sound. I was hoping that you all would be able to say that was no, so maybe then all of them were no. So I tried to stick one in there for you. All right, so let's go back to that discussion of what is a bedroom. What makes a bedroom is it must have 2 forms of egress, all right, 2 doors, either a door to the exterior and a door into the room from the interior, or a window that's accessible for egress, 2 means of egress, and the ceiling must be at least 7 feet high, and it must be the ceiling, but at least 50% of the ceiling needs to be a minimum of 7 feet. So if you have a sloping ceiling, and it's like a 2nd floor loft bedroom kind of thing with a very steeply pitched roof, 50% of that must be 7 feet high, okay? And the room must be overall size of 70 square feet with no wall horizontally being smaller than 7 feet. Did you know that? How many of you didn't know that? That to meet the bedroom requirements, all you have to do is have entrance, a ceiling height, and a room dimension, okay? So am I helping you today? Is this useful information? I really hope so, because we designed it to be. Let's continue. Hazardous and defective conditions. All right, the fun stuff. This is pretty easy. If you see a large crack in an exterior or interior wall like this, it's not hard for you as a contractor, a home inspector, a FHA consultant, and real estate agents even to know that, hey, something's going to have to be done with this. Or if the house is deciding, peeling off completely, or electrical wires hanging from the ceiling, or plumbing leaks spewing water in your face. Yeah, those are easy. Those are defective conditions that are not hard to address. Now, why should everyone need to know about this? Because when you understand what FHA minimum property standards are, what VA minimum property standards are, what it takes to get past the appraisal, you're in a better position to A, help that seller make sure that he is going to be able to have all the things he needs to get done and has right priced the house based upon that, or maybe decide he's not going to meet minimum property standards, but is going to offer the home for a renovation mortgage. You're going to help that buyer who wants to understand, what do I need to do to pass the appraisal, even if they don't want any other service from you, even if they don't want a home inspection or are not doing a 203K renovation project, but just want to know what's it going to take to pass the actual appraisal. This is excellent information for you as a contractor when you are talking about a person who's going to be using your services to renovate a property and they need to they need to refinance the mortgage. You can let them know, hey, in order to get this refinance, especially if you're getting an FHA refinance, you're going to have to make sure that we cover these minimum property standards. So everybody needs to can and will be able to benefit and have a profit margin, a profit base from their knowledge of minimum property standards. And as I said before, it helps you understand what the possibilities are. And I'm going to tell you right now, just before we go any further, understanding FHA and VA minimum property standards, I hate to say this, it's the only way I can think of it, it's a gateway drug. I know, it's a horrible term, but I can't think of any other way to put it. It's going to be one of the biggest lead-ins for people who will need a renovation mortgage. They're going to find out from you that the home fails to meet minimum property standards, and they're going to ask, how can I get it there? How can I pass these standards? How can I get to the place where I can still buy this home I really want? Well, the way you do that is by understanding the flow of a renovation, of the flow of the home buying process as it relates to minimum property standards. You ready for it? Flowchart time. Okay. So let's assume that you are offering a service that provides a very limited, quick, easy to create report that describes exactly what the minimum property standards are. Nothing more, nothing less. A simple, quick to create report that tells them what it's going to do to get it right. You're giving this to a buyer, you're giving this to a seller, you're giving this to an existing homeowner, a nonprofit association interested in purchasing a property. Many people benefit from this resource. I think I've shown that. Well, you generate that report, and if it passes, then congratulations, they now can move forward with their traditional approved insurable mortgage. So either FHA, VA, they can now move forward. They now know what it's going to take. It's either passing, or if it doesn't pass that preliminary evaluation, that minimum property standard evaluation, as we call it, and the seller is willing to fix it, or the homeowner is willing to repair those things as part of the construction process, or the buyer is willing to incorporate those, or the seller is going to fix it before you buy the home, or the homeowner is going to incorporate those repairs into your construction project, then that buyer, that person looking to get that mortgage, can move forward with that mortgage activity. But let's say that the seller can't fix it. They can't afford to fix it. Let's say it's a homeowner who needs to make sure that these things are included to get that refinance mortgage, but they're not going to fix them before they get the refinance mortgage, so they need that money to repair the other things in the home. That's where renovation mortgages come in. So if the repair is not going to be able to be fixed prior to the mortgaging of the home, then those repairs can be included in the purchase price of the property in the refinance of the mortgage with an FHA limited 203K or with a VA loan. And they have a small VA loan as well. They don't have two names for it. It's just a VA loan. You can do small amounts, large amounts. It's just a VA rehab loan. But the FHA has two different types of renovation loans. And we'll talk about that real briefly because there is a distinction. There's something known as the limited 203K. Some of you may have heard it called the streamlined 203K. That's been about for 2 years now that HUD has changed the name because it was confusing with a streamlined mortgage application, which is something totally different. So let's refer to it by its correct name now, which is a limited. And it's basically, that's what it is. It's limited repairs, limited dollar amount. Nothing structural in nature, nothing that's going to be complicated to repair. This can be done, and the repair amount is under $35,000. But you can see in my flow chart, I wrote less than $32,000 with a little asterisk. That's because when the home repairs are $32,000, HUD requires with any insurable rehab loan that they add something known as a contingency. And this contingency is an additional amount of money added to the purchase price to cover unforeseen problems that arise after closing. So now, if you have a repair amount of $31,000, the minimum contingency that FHA mandates is 10%. So $31,000 plus $3,100 is $34,100. That keeps you under that $35,000 limit there. Okay? So that's what that does. Now, if it, however, is structural in nature, I mean just one ceiling joist is cracked and needs to be sistered or has termite damage, or one structural wall has to be moved or is compromised, or supporting columns for the front porch have to be replaced. Anything that involves structural modifications or the repairs are more than $35,000, or it's going to take many months to complete, then the loan that a person can use is a full-blown VA rehab or full standard 203K loan. And this is how the flow of events makes it so that starting with that FHA, minimum property standard evaluation, you're giving your customer the tools to know if and what type of, if they need a rehab loan, and if they do, what type do they have to have. That's why I called it a gateway drug. So now, let's do a little bit of a stop check here, okay? I just want to just basically stop and see where we're at. One, I promised to tell you why FHA minimum property standards was so necessary, and VA. Two, I promised to tell you who's going to need it. I think I've done that. Three, I told you I was going to tell you what they are and how to identify them. And I'm going to go a little bit more into detail in a minute by showing you a sample of the MPS evaluation report. Oh yes, I said I was going to tell you how you can share this information profitably. All right, let's keep going. All right, so ways to share the minimum property standards. Well, real estate agent education is key. And I invited a number of real estate agents on this call, and I'm so excited that many of you are on this webinar today. If you are a real estate agent out there right now, would you please just type in the chat box for me if this is of value to you? Are you really getting something out of this? Just simply say realtor yes or realtor no. I just want people to see just how many people out there are really interested in this information. Home buyer education. We talked about working with nonprofit housing counseling agencies. In the National Association of FHA Consultants, our members are provided with resources and tools to go out and be able to do turnkey office training and workshops in partnership with nonprofit housing counseling authorities. You can add this to your home inspection services. Hi, home inspectors out there, guys. Yes, this is a great add-on. It's actually a really cool tool to give to your person who says, I really can't afford the full home inspection. Is there anything I can do? Sure. Are you buying with an FHA mortgage? I can offer you a less expensive, less detailed report. I don't go up on the roof. I don't open up the electrical panel. I won't be taking the cover off the heater. This is an evaluation of the report with the same degree of technical invasiveness as an appraiser does, which means I'm walking around, maybe with an outlet tester, definitely with my camera and flashlight, but very little else. And I probably have a little step ladder to get up into the attic. Very little else. And obviously, if you are working as an FHA renovation consultant, this is a wonderful tool to help people determine, is it feasible for us to move forward with the 203K and EEM services? It's a great tool. So now we talked about how, when, who. We talked about who, when, where. Now let's talk about how. The MPS Minimum Property Standards Reporting System. This is a very easy system. I created this actually as a tool here in my inspection company. I designed it to be a tool to show my existing home inspectors how to study and learn what FHA minimum property standards are. I had to have a way to get them trained quickly, because if I didn't, they weren't going to know what they were doing. So it was like, okay, I got to show them quickly and effectively what's going on in the program so that they can know what's happening in the world of 203K consulting. So let me just show you an example of what a report looks like. And there you can see the minimum property standard report. So now I actually It's a little interesting. I actually have multiple screens, so I'm looking at you from one screen, and I have the minimum property standards on the other screen over there. So if you see me turn my head every now and then, it's because I'm looking at my other screen. But on this screen, I'm showing you a page, and this is the kitchen section. And here you can see they're very simple questions. The FHA minimum property standard reporting system is a yes or no. It either is or it isn't. It's a very low bar. This is not optimum standards. So those of you who are home inspectors, take that home inspector's hat off, because you're not looking for what is the optimum condition of the system and comparing that home to perfection. You're looking to see, is it breathing? Is it living? Is it barely functioning? Because if it meets the minimum standards, you're golden. So if you're looking at that slide, what you're looking at is the situation that here you can see everything. It just says, is there a kitchen? Is it present? Are there electrical hazards? Are all windows in openable, operable, and lockable conditions? These are very simple questions to answer, and after you've done a few of these reports, they become second nature to you. You don't have any problem understanding what they are. This system is so easy to use, and it creates a report that you actually can generate right there at the property with your cell phone, with your tablet. Actually, cell phone's a little small to read, but your tablet or your laptop that you have with you, it's a great report that you actually can utilize to let people know, now that I've told you it passes minimum property standards, do you think you might want to upgrade to a full home inspection or a full 203K feasibility? Or are you ready for me to start quoting the cost of the rehab work that you want me to do in the property for the desired improvement? Talking to you, Mr. Contractor. And to those of you who are in the mortgaging and lending community, I'm so glad you're on this call today as well, because this is a resource that, and these are some questions that you, loan brokers, can ask these clients that you're working with when you are preparing to have them get ready to start putting in their application for the mortgage. So I promised in the emails that we said I would give you 5 questions that you should ask a potential mortgagee, what they should be looking for to let you know if this is going to be a probable problem in the property. So question number 1, are all utilities of the property on? Okay? If not, which ones are not on and why? 2, is someone living in the home right now? If the home is vacant, many times the condition of the property is less than it could be. And if it is vacant, how long has it been unoccupied? That's a very key question. 3, do you see any visible signs of mold, or do you smell any mold in the property? You gotta ask that question. Real estate agents, you've got to be looking for mold. Mold is a big concern for any appraiser because it's an indication of moisture entry. And moisture entry in any form or fashion is one of the biggest minimum property standard failures. That's the third one. 4, is there any indication of chipping, flaking, peeling paint in the property? And if so, how bad is it? Once again, one of the biggest hot buttons with an underwriter and the appraisers for both VA and FHA. And 5, did you turn on any of the major systems such as the heater or the lights and the water? Those are your 5 questions. And as a bonus for you all, I'm going to be sending you out an email tomorrow with the request for replay, with the information for replay. I'm going to include those 5 questions in that email. So if in case you didn't get a chance to write it down, I'm going to put that in the email for you. Okay? So let's continue. So I've showed you the minimum property standard reporting system. And again, it's a simple PDF product. And when you invest in this product, it's a one-time investment. There's no ongoing monthly fees for it. You can use it for anybody in your company. We are not monitoring it. There's no licenses that you have to get where if you violate the license, it's going to crash your system. This is meant to be a tool to help you. The only reason we have to charge for it at all is because we have to maintain it. We have to keep it current. And so there are costs involved in that. If I could, I'd give it away for free. And actually, just hold on for a minute. So let's keep going. What is the price for the FHA minimum property standard reporting system? Well, right now, the regular price for this system with all of the values and benefits of it that you can just use tomorrow, literally, because you do not have to be a licensed home inspector. You do not have to be a FHA consultant. anyone can complete this report. There is nothing in it that is governed by any governing authority. It is not a home inspection. It is not designed to be a substitute for a home inspection. And as a matter of fact, the contracts that we give you say so. So, real estate agents, loan officers, do you think you might want some of this, want a copy of this so you actually can see when you're walking around the property? Maybe you might want to offer a USP to your FHA clients to say, hey, you can help them identify FHA minimum property standards by walking around with the property. Or you will know, or you maybe want to talk to one of the home inspectors in your network. And if you're not already working with a NAFAC member consultant home inspector, I certainly hope you will, who are all using the minimum property standards. This is a great tool because you don't charge as much for this product as you would a full service home inspection. When we give you the FHA minimum property standard reporting system, we're going to give you the training manual, the actual HUD guidelines for FHA minimum property standards. We actually, as a bonus, are going to be incorporating in a separate email after you invest in the system, the VA minimum property standards. Guess what? They're the same as FHA, only stricter, okay? So they are much more concerned about things being more optimal in functionality than minimal. So a good quality home inspection report will probably be closer to the grade of a VA appraisal than an FHA appraisal. We're going to give you the agreement, customizable, and we recommend that you review it with your attorney as any agreement form to make sure it's legal in your state and qualified in your state, but it's an already pre-printed customizable agreement that actually says, this is not meant to be a home inspection. If you think you want a home inspection, I can either perform it or I can recommend someone who can. And the system is form fillable, usable on any device. But like I said, it might be a little small for a cell phone, okay? Just got to give that warning out there to you. Another thing that we have provided is we know that you need to educate people the way I'm educating you today. We can't get everybody here on this webinar, but we want you to be the recognized expert. So how do you get the word out? So we have the Jumpstart Your FHA MPS Business. This is a 1 hour, actually it's 1.5 hours. I always like to over deliver. So it's 2 1.5 hour educational sessions pre-recorded that teach you, one, how to do a webinar like this, what webinar services are out there that you can use, and ready for you, done for you, customizable PowerPoint presentation, similar to the one you're looking at today, that goes through the flow of events and describes what the minimum property standards are and why this is so valuable for your audiences to do. And it's customizable for audiences of lenders, real estate professionals, and home buyers and sellers. Could you do this as a live webinar from your Facebook, a Facebook Live posting webinar? Absolutely. And actually, one of the things that we provide to our NAFAC Diamond members is scripts that help you do just that. So this is a step-by-step training on how to use the system and how to market the system. And the cost for this system, this separate Jumpstart Your FHA MPS Business, is just $257. Now, I didn't tell you what I typically charge for my MPS services. When I go out and do an MPS 203K, an MPS evaluation, in addition to a home inspection, I usually charge $175 as an upsell to my home inspection report for that FHA buyer or for that investor who just wants to know, what do I got to do to get this house ready for sale? So right now, if I'm doing it as a standalone product, I usually charge $349 for the MPS report. Again, I'm not going on the roof. I'm not getting in the crawl space. I'm not doing anything that the appraiser's not doing. So the cost of the system alone at $319 is less than what you'll be making on your first project. And after you have done 2 of them, you'll paid for your Jumpstart, your FHA MPS business. Now, remember I told you the upkeep of the system? Well, we actually want to make it easy for you to stay up to date with the MPS system no matter how often it has to change. So we actually have another bonus for you that you can actually get, which is the lifetime MPS system upgrade. When FHA changes the guidelines and changes the requirements, we update the system and send you out an email with the updated PDF master copy for you to use. This actually, right now, is something that we do, and all the advances and updates and changes, if there's a change to an operating system that we have to change our service for, we have programmers who take care of that, and that's an additional $175 fee. So now if you think about it, having the minimum property standard system that allows me to be able to go out and market to people with PowerPoint presentations, CEU courses, the system that's totally unrestricted, unrestricted usage for any environment, any situation, the jumpstart that actually will get you using this immediately. After 2-hour sessions, 2 one-hour sessions, actually they're 1.5 hours, so 3 hours total. So after 3 hours of education, you're literally going out and doing your first MPS, literally. And the lifetime upgrade. As an extra bonus, and I'm going to just throw this in, I usually charge for this, but we actually have customizable PowerPoint shows for CEU education agent training. As I said, CEU education training was one of the biggest ways I was able to restore my business back to a successful company after I lost my contract, after the contract ended after 7 years, and the mortgage meltdown hit me at the same time. So thriving is more important than just surviving. And this is a tool that can help your business thrive. All right, so you know what the price is. And of course, if you've been on webinars before, you know I'm not going to ask you for $901. Of course not. In fact, I'm not even going to ask you to pay the price that we charge when we do a live training session. When we do a live event like a show, a home inspector convention or a realtor convention, or even a lender conference, we do not charge $901. We actually charge $275 for this product, complete with all of the bonuses I shared. I'm not even going to charge you that. That's our show special. And if you think about it, it's less than what you'll be paid on just one minimum property standard report. Think about just the PowerPoint presentations alone, giving you a tool to get in front of audiences. Think about the fact that we're going to be including with it a script to get people to, a script for you to put in your emails to get people to call you, to give you these opportunities to train. So we're not even going to charge you the $275, okay? So what are we going to ask you today? Well, the cost of the system is just $197. That's all. I'm just asking you for $197. Literally, it's just to cover my overhead costs for maintaining the system. Because again, I want you to get the word out, because the more people who have knowledge about this opportunity to buy a home with an insurable mortgage, but not have to be beaten over the head by an appraisal report and know before they spend the $475, the $525 for the appraisal, they know what needs to be done. And you are able to profit by that ability to share that knowledge. $197 is actually cheap at that price. So when you go to that site, www.nafac.org/MPS, the page will open up that looks like this. And then you'll see that button down there that says click here to sign up to take advantage of the minimum property standards. When you click that link, it's going to take you to the shopping cart page. And on that shopping cart page, it's going to show you the inspecting for minimum property standards. It's going to show you the jumpstart your minimum property standard system, the lifetime upgrades. And if you enter a special promo code I'm about to share with you, you will get a free ticket to the upcoming 203K Discovery Days. Now, our next 203K Discovery Days is right around the corner, just 3 months away in October in beautiful Irvine, California, October 3rd to the 6th, outside of Disney World. Yes, we're trying to plan a half day in Disney World. And we want you to be there. We want to show you what you can get when you are learning what 203K is. This is a 3 days worth of discovery, investigation, education, and information. And it's all about the world of 203K consulting. So why 203K consulting? Why do it? Right now, I'm talking to you loan officers who haven't been doing 203Ks because you're not sure what it's going to do to your business and who can you turn to. I'm talking to you real estate inspectors who need to be able to be a full service program for your clients. I'm talking to you contractors who want to be able to find a way to help people afford the repairs that they're doing to their homes. I'm talking also to your contractors and home inspectors who might want to become 203K consultants. So this is a great program for you. And what is one of the best reasons to be a 203K consultant? The only thing I can think of is the top of my list, more ways to be paid. You can be paid before closing and after closing. And when you're paid by this 203K program, the fees that you're paid are guaranteed by the government. They're already pre-scheduled. So how does this work? Well, HUD has an approved fee schedule, and that fee schedule mandates what the fees are that you get to charge for your services as a 203K consultant. So no more fighting and having people undercut you when you're charging fees for your home inspection services. This is a great way to grow and have sustainable revenue and be able to get paid what you're worth. So let's just break it down. Let's take a typical $35,000 project. Why did I use $35,000? Obviously, because it's under the threshold of a limited 203K. And as you will learn, even though with the limited 203K, you do not have to use a consultant, many lenders are requiring that a consultant come in and do a preliminary assessment of the property to ensure that all safety and soundness concerns are included in that contractor's proposal. And Mr. Contractor, Miss Contractor, come to the 203K Discovery Days, and we're going to show you, as well as our FHA consultants and home inspectors, how to be able to capitalize on the market of providing services to people looking to get the limited 203Ks. And you loan officers, come learn yourself about what it is that we're saying to these individuals that can really open the door for more rehab lending opportunities for you and your business. So let's go back to this. I dropped off of that little bit of a commercial. Let's break this down. A typical $35,000 job before closing, if you are a home inspector, you would be able to charge your home inspection fee, absolutely, in addition to the consulting services fee. We do it every day. We have the feasibility study fee, and we'll show you how you get paid. You don't get paid $100 at the time of any service. We show you a great secret on how to be able to get more money up front, but still be able to make sure that it's reimbursable to the borrower. That's right, reimbursable. We'll show you that in a minute. The work write-up fee based upon a $35,000 project is $750. So before closing, not including termite inspection, if you offer that, mold, and every home inspector and every FHA consultant should offer mold services, and we're going to be having a special guest speaker at the 203K Discovery Days who's going to talk about how to add mold inspections to your business effectively and quickly, including all the necessary training and certification and insurance. Mold, radon, termite, septic, well, all the additional add-ons, that's money raining down on top of the $1,250 paid to you at the time of the initial consultation from the borrower. After closing, let's break it down further. Once the 203K rehab project starts, a typical job with $35,000 in repairs is going to be about 4 draws, 3 or 4 draws. So here in my example, I have draw 1, draw 2, draw 3. But with any renovation project, any construction project, contractors out there, would you please type in now how many times you do a project that you require a change order in percent? And I'm expecting to see the 100% or 80%. Most of the time, projects, you open up a wall, something's there you weren't expecting, and you have to address it. So that requires a change order. Well, good news, consultants get to be paid an additional $100 every time a change order is processed with a draw. So here you can see, after closing, I'm getting a draw fee that includes mileage, and I'm getting change order fees. Now here you can see the mileage rate I put here was 57 cents. Don't get up in arms. I wanted to point out to you that yes, mileage is now 58 cents a mile. So that number would be even higher of what you'd be earning on this project. So let's just look at what these numbers look like. So before closing, you're getting $1,250. After closing, you're getting $834 paid directly to you from the proceeds of the loan, for a total of $2,084 on one project. Now, how many home inspections do you have to do to get $2,084? Contractors, how long does it take you to actually create that much actual end of job profit on your projects? This is straight up money for creating reports and doing evaluations. No back-breaking work whatsoever. What else is great about 203K consulting? All the things you see there. No competition. That's why we're here today talking to you. That's why we are marketing across the country, because I have lenders who are calling up the National Association and asking us, we need more consultants in this area. We need more qualified, trained consultants. We need more competent consultants, because the people on the roster aren't answering the phone. They don't want to do the job. We are all active, eager, and excited FHA consultants, and we need more. And that's why we're hosting the 203K Discovery Days, so we can educate you and give you that fire to be able to rebuild your 203K business if you are already a consultant, or add it to your business if you are a home inspector or a contractor. And real estate agents, yes, I've gotten those phone calls. Can I be a 203K consultant? Unfortunately, the answer is unless you have 3 years of active experience in the residential building trades, home inspector, engineer, contractor, you are ineligible to be an FHA consultant. That's just one of the prerequisites, but that's the biggest one. So as you can see, most of the people on this call today, this webinar, are already eligible to be consultants if you are not already. So 90% of your referrals come from lenders. This is a great resource. Lenders are looking for consultants every day. And it's a great way to network with the real estate agencies and real estate companies that you're currently marketing with. Quicker inspections, less labor intensive. I can't go into more and more reasons why you should do this. And for those of you who have typed in there, but isn't this for distressed markets only? No. 203K is not just for low income. It never was. The maximum loan limit for the typical home raised in 2019 to $314,000 for average markets. Now, I want you to understand that's for most markets. For areas like New York, Los Angeles, California, Hawaii, Alaska, the Bahamas, areas where the prices of homes are extremely higher than the continental U.S., the loan limits are much higher. In fact, the maximum loan limit for single-family residents for the New York area is close to $600,000. So you see, the loan limits are higher for location, and we can actually share with you what the locations are and what your area is. And again, remember, you're not just talking about FHA here, you're talking about VA rehab loans and conventional Fannie Mae home style loans, conventional renovation loans that have no loan limit. They can be done on a jumbo loan, okay? So the sky's the limit on those, and we love those projects, and more lenders do too. So, and as you can see, if you have a multifamily dwelling, the price of that loan limit goes up exponentially for the number of units in the property. And did I mention no liability? Did I mention that after you do your consultation as an FHA consultant, the appraiser comes in and confirms that everything that you put in that report meets minimum property standards. And when we do our FHA minimum property standard report, even though we are not going to be as labor intensive as a home inspection, we can't help but be a lot more disciplined and detailed in our assessment of the property than an appraiser, because our job has always been to look carefully at the conditions of the home. It's hard to take that home inspector hat off. Almost impossible, but you can do it, and we show you how at the 203K Discovery Days. So let me show you some of the rewarding advantages of being an FHA consultant, a VA consultant. A 203K consultant is the one who does all these renovation loans. Here's the property. This was day one of construction. This is a picture of the property right as it just got purchased. And this is what it looked like when it was finished. This was a $200,000 rehab, and I was the consultant. And as you can see, we clear cut the trees on the side of the property. We did everything to make this home amazing. And let's continue with that home. So this is what the kitchen looked like in that property. Okay, that's not too good. And this is what it looked like when we were finished. This was our final inspection day, and the borrower hosted us a little breakfast party and brought donuts and coffee as we walked around the home, marveling at the beauty of what this home looked like. So this is what your borrowers get to do. And I use the term borrower instead of buyer, because about 40% of the people who use renovation mortgages are refinancing an existing loan because it's cheaper to keep her. So don't think this is just a buyer's program. This is a wonderful program for working with people who are existing homeowners. And when you're dealing with existing homeowners, the stress And the anxiety of that purchase scenario doesn't exist. They're not buying the home. They don't have that stress, hurry up, I got to get this done because I'm buying a house kind of environment. So that's the great news about this program. So here's an example of a situation that I'm very proud of. You see, the National Association of FHA Consultants, we have our motto, tagline, rebuilding neighborhoods one home at a time. This is a story about a family, a mother and her two sons. She owned a home in inner city Philadelphia, urban Philadelphia, in a neighborhood where their family had lived for decades, okay? They had a house fire. It was a chimney puffback fire, and you can see the charring on the joist. You should be able to see the knob and tube wiring lines. You can see that all the damage to the property. She got some insurance money, and it wasn't enough. They started to try to rehab it themselves, and they couldn't get it done. With the help of the 203K rehab loan, we were able to take this wonderful family and put them in that home. We rebuilt. We didn't rebuild the stairs. We didn't have to. We could salvage them. We just put up new railings and supports. We actually put in beautiful recessed lights and new windows and ceiling fans. We ran all new PEX water lines and PVC drain lines. And we gave her the beautiful kitchen that she was so excited to have. How much more rewarding is your life than when you can give someone their home back? That's why I do this. I'm giving people back their lives, because isn't a safe and sound home the most important thing to sustain a person and help them be successful in life? I don't have to go into statistics, but everyone knows that people who come from safe, comfortable homes go on to do much better than those who do not. And this is our way of helping our communities, helping our country. I know I sound a little bit pie in the sky, but for me, it's a real thing that I see every day. Situations like this. This is a scenario where the person was buying a home where it was a foreclosed property, REO, and in that REO, the home had mold because they turned off the electricity, the sump pump stopped running, and there you see it. Well, they stopped running the sump pump, and now the mold was all over the house. The client could not afford to restore that. This is a basement, the man cave. He couldn't afford to rebuild that house. There's the door to the outside. But what we could do was stabilize it. We could fix it. We could make it so that it was ready to be future renovated when he had money later on, probably refinancing the actual rehab loan into a new loan, getting even more money. And we'll talk about that at the 203K Discovery Days. We are actually helping people carve out ways to buy homes. We are creating opportunities. We are creative financing support and resource helpers. And we're going to talk about all of this and expand on all of this opportunity, all of this knowledge, and all this income potential at the upcoming 203K Discovery Days. So let's show you a little bit about what that means. Hang on, I'm trying to turn up the volume. Okay. Sorry about this. Looking at I'm sorry that it's not the audio portion, but I will send you the link to the audio. This was the event that was held in Boulder, Colorado last October. Like I said, we're coming to California.
Came here to the NAFHAC 203K days to learn how to better help my clients.
Catherine's seminar has been a wealth of information. She has more energy than my 3-year-old toddler. I don't know how she does it.
Any of the training I've gone through to make my business better, this has been the best value and the most engaging.
Learned a lot in this, well worth the money, the trip.
We've only been here for a day and a half, and I feel like they've got a week worth of training out already.
Talking about the enjoyment that we had at the 203K Discovery Days. We are just so excited that they were there. And again, I'm sorry that you're not here.
You could sum up this weekend in one word. What would it be?
Wow. Informative.
Informative. I've learned a lot, and I've signed up for the package.
It's been very
Look at the replay of this where I will have this fixed.
enlightening.
transformational.
You guys feel transformational?
So you can see us waving, and we actually have our upcoming 203K Discovery Days. We held one in May in Fort Lauderdale. Our next one is October in Fort Lauderdale. We're crisscrossing the country, and we are making it so that everybody can have an opportunity to be able to benefit from this amazing resource. So speaking of opportunities, some say opportunity knocks only once. That is not true. Opportunities knock all the time, but you have to be ready for it. If the chance comes, you must have the equipment to take advantage of it. So what is the equipment you're going to get to take advantage of? We're going to make it so that when you join us for the 203K, when you invest in the FHA Minimum Property Standard Reporting System, what you're going to be able to get, and when you click that link to be able to sign up and register, so when you go to the site and register for the Minimum Property Standard Reporting System at just $197, and you click that link, when you enter the promo code MPS free, not only is the Jumpstart Your Business package free, not only is the lifetime upgrade free, not only is the extra webinar bonus free, but the 203K Discovery Days is also free for you, with an additional opportunity for you to bring an added guest for only an additional $147. And again, that includes all meals, all materials. So we hope that you will take advantage of this opportunity. We are probably not coming back to the West Coast anytime soon. We will be back on the East Coast again next year. Don't put this off. You have the chance. You have the resources. Don't let this opportunity pass you by. Join us and take advantage and take this to the next step. So we're giving the $197 special price, but only for the next 24 people. So right here on this slide next to me, you should be able to see a button that you can click right now in the webinar and invest in the system and get started right away. The first 24 people will be able to get this special pricing. After that, the price goes back up because it's actually such a great offer. We're going to offer it for 24 people from each of the webinar sessions that we're holding over the next 2 weeks. And it includes the 203K Discovery Days complete, where you will learn new ideas, make new connections, and create new rewards. Again, this will not last long. After the first 24 people, the price will go back up to $319. It will still include a free ticket to the 203K Discovery Days. It's still a great deal, but don't let this pass. Hurry up. Take advantage of the opportunity, because as I like to say, as you read it, opportunities come all the time, but you've got to have the equipment to take advantage of it. So until I'm able to support you in the future, thank you so much for your interactiveness in this webinar. Thank you for being with us. Be outstanding. Bye-bye.